Friends, hi, namaskar, and welcome. See, today we are still in the 1940s. I told you last time that 1940s is a very happening decade, and it will take a little bit of a time to complete the story of the 1940s. So after telling you about the Second World War, today I am going to talk to you about the last stages of the Indian independence movement and the ultimate independence of India. You see, I have been telling you in the earlier episodes on and off about the Indian independence movement and have told you that the mainstream Indian independence movement is spearheaded by the Indian National Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. And there at the same time there is also armed revolutionaries who have been trying to disturb the British administration through armed revolution. By the late 1930s and early 1940s, the activities of the armed revolutionaries have reduced to a great extent, and many have been either jailed or have joined the Communist Party. So now Congress is the undisputed spearhead of the mass movement, and apart from Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru is another prominent leader. At the same time, the Muslim League has also consolidated their position, and the Muslims of India, who comprise about 25% of the total population of 40 crores, are mainly supporting the Muslim League. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who is the undisputed leader of Muslim League, has already floated the theory of two nations, and whenever there is talk of India's independence, he has been always demanding for a separate nation for the Muslims. Subhash Chandra Bose, the youthful leader from Bengal, has broken away from the Indian National Congress and has formed his own party, the All India Forward Bloc. The communists have also increased their influences, particularly in the industrial areas. When the Second World War breaks out in 1939, the British government in India joins the war efforts, but they do not discuss anything with the Indian political parties. Congress is also supporting the democratic forces against the Nazis and the fascists, but they think that this is the opportune moment to demand for full freedom, and then Free India would be supporting the Allies' war efforts. The Muslim League remains independent, while the communists have also remained independent, and Subhash Bose has been under house arrest immediately on the declaration of the Second World War. Since the demand for independence is not met, Congress leaders, they go into a satyagraha movement, but this time it is not the mass satyagraha, it is the personal satyagrahas. By 1942, it appears that the Allies are not in good position, and the Japanese are already knocking at the doors of India in the east. So Congress thinks it is an opportune moment and the right occasion to strike hard at the British in their struggle for freedom. Bearing this in mind, the famous Quit India resolution is passed by the Congress Committee in Bombay on 8th August 1942. But before the leaders can start the movement for Quit India, the British government pounces and all the first-rung leaders are arrested either by the night of 8th August or early morning of 9th August. When this news of the leaders being arrested reached the common masses, the masses start a very big movement all over the country under the leadership of the second rung leaders like Jayaprakash Narayan, etc. Subhash Bose, in the meantime, in 1941, has escaped from house arrest and has first gone to Nazi Germany and seeks support from Hitler to form an army of the Indian soldiers captured by the Axis powers. But somehow it does not happen, and then he travels to Japan and with the help of the Japanese form the Indian National Army, or in short INA, and they also march along with the Japanese to Kohima and Manipur. But somehow in the 1942 battle, the Japanese and INA are defeated, and while retreating, Subhash dies in an air crash. The communists in the meantime have started actively supporting the British war efforts after Russia enters the war in 1941. This is as per the directives of the parent Soviet Communist Party. In 1945, the war ends, and though the British emerge in the victorious side, their economy is shattered by the 6 years long war, and their army is also tired by fighting for these long years, and they are not too keen to be defending the far outposts of the British Empire in India. Also in 1945, in the general elections of Britain, the Labour Party comes to power and Clements Attlee becomes the British Premier, taking over from Sir Winston Churchill. The Labour Party has always been more supportive of India's independence, and after looking at the situation both in Britain and in India, discussions are on that the British would leave India permanently in the next couple of years and hand over power to the Indians. But while the discussions are being held, Muslim League calls for a direct action day on 16th August 1946, and the entire country goes into a massive riot between the two communities. In fact, this is the worst communal riot in India for a long time. The riots are particularly very bad in the eastern part of the country, in Bihar, Assam, Eastern Bengal, but Calcutta is worst hit. The riots continue for a very long time, and ultimately Mahatma Gandhi has to step in, and he comes and camps in the worst affected area in Calcutta city and goes on a hunger strike. And after 3 or 4 days of Mahatma's hunger strike, better sense prevailed and the riot is ultimately stopped. Premier Attlee in February 1947 declares that the British would leave India by June 1948 and hand over power to the Indians then. In order to fulfill this declaration, Lord Louis Mountbatten is sent to India in March 1947 as the Viceroy, and to initiate talks amongst all the affected parties. Lord Mountbatten is a relative of Queen Victoria, and he is a dashing war hero of the Second World War, and the talks go on reasonably well. But somehow Jinnah is not very satisfied, because during the time of discussion, whatever he expected is not completely given to the new country of Pakistan. Ultimately, all parties agree to the partition of India and the Indian and Pakistan's independence, and accordingly the date is preponed. Instead of June 1948, it is decided that India would become independent on 15th August 1947. The princely states are asked to exercise option to join either India or Pakistan, and most of the states exercise that option depending on their location. But somehow Kashmir, Maharaja Hari Singh does not sign in favor of either India or Pakistan, and Pakistan had always wanted to take Kashmir, but the British, in a hurry to leave, does not solve the Kashmir problem but hands over the batons to both the Indians and Pakistanis. Therefore, on the midnight of 14th August 1947, the Union Jack is brought down from the last time and is replaced by the Indian tricolor, and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru takes over as the Prime Minister of Free India. One day earlier, on the night of 13th August 1947, Pakistan also gains its independence, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah becomes the first Governor General of Pakistan. But as soon as the British leave, both the newly independent countries face huge problems. There is big influx of refugees on both sides, and it is accompanied by rioting. In September 1947, Pakistan attacks Kashmir, and Maharaja Hari Singh immediately signs for India. Accordingly, Indians also have to send the forces, and that is the first Indo-Pakistan conflict which happens in September-October 1947. And during that conflict, Pakistan occupies a part of Kashmir, and although 75 years have passed, that occupation still continues. Then in 1948, precisely on 30th January 1948, Mahatma Gandhi is assassinated by Nathuram Godse when he is going to attend a prayer meeting in Delhi, and the entire world mourns for the loss of the father of the Indian nation. As the new decade comes, India's constitution is made ready by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and India decides to declare that it is going to be a democracy, and its constitution will be implemented on 26th January 1950. So as the decade draws to its end, I also would like to draw curtains to today's episode, and before going, I would leave you with a what if question. What if the partition had not taken place? What would have been the population of undivided India now? Please ponder on this, and next time I shall be talking about other happenings in the Asian continent in the 1940s. Thank you. Bye. Namaste, and see you next time.